It was an ordinary Thursday morning. As far as anyone could tell, there was nothing out of the ordinary about it. But for one family, their lives would change dramatically in a way they could never have imagined. This was the day their little boy vanished without a trace. 18 years later, something happened that brought them face to face with the greatest mystery of their lives. The year before, Timmy's parents had tried everything they could think of to find him. They put up reward posters all over town. They even went on TV shows. But nobody had any leads, not a single one. The police had all but given up hope of ever finding the missing child. But his mother never did. Every day, she prayed that one day her son would walk through that door. She just couldn't bring herself to believe he was gone forever. Timmy's father couldn't do anything when he heard this news. It was too much for him. He felt completely helpless. So he started drinking heavily and became a shadow of his former self. His wife was beside herself with worry. It was hard enough dealing with the disappearance of their son, but seeing her husband turn to alcohol was heartbreaking. She loved him so much and didn't want to lose him, too. It had been so long since anyone had seen Timmy that most people thought he must be dead. But his parents refused to accept that. Even after all these years, they still clung to the belief that he was alive somewhere out there waiting to be found. As time went on, their hope began to fade. The lack of answers left them feeling helpless and bitter. The once happy couple had grown distant, each lost in their own thoughts and pain. There were times when they came close to giving up hope, but something always pulled them back from the brink. Maybe it was the memory of their son's infectious laughter or the way he used to run to greet them at the door. Whatever it was, they held on to it tightly. But no one understood why the parents never gave up hope. And it seemed as if their belief in their son's survival was unshakable. No matter how many years went by, they still held on to the belief that he was alive somewhere out there. Now, fast forward 18 years. On this day, a young woman named Lily was helping her grandmother move into a new house. As they were clearing out the attic, they came across an old backpack. It was covered in dust and cobwebs, and Lily couldn't help but wonder who it belonged to. When she opened it up, she found a name tag with the words Timmy Thomas written on it. She had never seen the boy before, but something told her she needed to find him. So Lily took the backpack home with her. She couldn't shake the feeling that she needed to find the owner of the bag. But where would someone find a missing child's backpack after all these years? She knew she had to try. She began searching online for any news articles or missing persons reports that mentioned the name Timmy Thomas. Finally, she found something. An old report from the local newspaper told the story of a boy who had gone missing after school 18 years ago. The description of Timmy Thomas matched the name on the backpack. Could this be the same kid? Determined to find out, Lily contacted the police and told them about her discovery. At first, they were skeptical, but when they saw the backpack for themselves, they agreed to take the case seriously. After all, it wasn't every day that a cold case got a new lead. An investigation was launched, and soon the police had tracked down Timmy's parents. They were shocked when they heard from the police. Could their son really be alive after all these years? They hadn't dared to hope for this, but now it was a real possibility. When they heard about the discovery of the backpack, they were hesitant to get their hopes up again. But deep down, they knew that this could be the break they had been waiting for. The police were cautious, though. They didn't want to raise the parents' hopes only to dash them again. But as the investigation continued, they began to think that maybe, just maybe, Timmy was out there somewhere. As Lily looked at the contents of the backpack, she couldn't help but feel a sense of dread. What if it turned out that Timmy wasn't alive? Then what would she have done? But as she thought about it, she realized that no matter what the outcome was, she had done the right thing by coming forward. She had followed her gut, and it had led her to this moment. And who knows what the future might hold? Maybe their son was alive all along. Maybe this was the moment they had been waiting for. Lily decided that no matter what the outcome was, she had done the right thing by coming forward. She had followed her gut, and it had led her to this moment. And who knows what the future might hold? The reunion was filled with tears, laughter, and disbelief. They couldn't believe that after all this time, they would finally get a chance to see their son again. They embraced, tears streaming down their faces as they whispered words of love and happiness into his ear. In that moment, nothing else mattered. All that counted was that their son was alive. The years of searching, the sleepless nights, and the constant worry suddenly seemed worth it. They had their son back, and that was all that mattered. As they stood there hugging their son, they couldn't help but wonder what the future would hold for them now. What would life be like with Timmy back in it? How would he adjust to being back with his family after all this time? They had so many questions, but none of them mattered right now. In that moment, they were just grateful to have their son back. The reunion between Timmy and his parents was one of joy and disbelief. They couldn't believe that after all these years, their son was finally home. But as the days passed, a sense of unease began to settle over them. Timmy's behavior was strange, and he seemed distant and withdrawn. His parents were worried, but they didn't know what to do. They had been so focused on the joy of having their son back that they hadn't noticed the signs of trouble. Now they were desperate to help him, but they didn't know where to start. They tried talking to him, but he would shut down and refuse to open up. He seemed like a stranger to them, and it was heartbreaking. They had missed so much of his life, and now they were struggling to connect with him. But they weren't going to give up. They were determined to help their son, no matter how difficult it was. They knew that he needed them now more than ever, and they weren't going to let him down. As the weeks went on, Timmy's behavior became more and more erratic. He would have mood swings and lash out at his parents for no reason. They were worried that he might be in danger, but they couldn't convince him to seek professional help. He was adamant that he didn't need it and that he could handle his problems on his own. But they knew that he was struggling. They could see the pain in his eyes, and they knew that he needed help. They tried everything they could think of to get through to him, but nothing seemed to work. They felt helpless and desperate, not knowing what to do. One day, Timmy's father had enough. He confronted his son and demanded that he seek professional help. But Timmy lashed out, and the situation quickly escalated. Timmy's father was taken aback by his son's outburst, and he felt a sense of dread wash over him. Was all their hard work to get Timmy back amounting to nothing? Was their son beyond saving? As the fight continued, Timmy's father became increasingly angry, and he pushed his son to the ground. In a moment of anger, he slapped Timmy across the face. He immediately regretted it, but the damage was done. Timmy ran out of the house, leaving his parents behind. They were devastated. They had pushed their son away, and now they didn't know how to bring him back. They had hoped that by confronting him, they would be able to help him get the help he needed. But instead, they had pushed him further away. They felt like they had lost their son all over again. As the days went by, Timmy's parents became increasingly worried about their son's well-being. They didn't know where he was, or if he was even taking care of himself. They had tried everything they could think of to reach out to him, but he had shut them out. They felt helpless and desperate, not knowing what to do. They had been through so much to bring their son back, and they weren't going to give up now. They knew that he needed them, and they were determined to make him understand that. After a week of searching, Timmy's parents had almost given up hope of finding him. They had put up posters and made public appeals, but no one had seen their son. They were devastated and didn't know what to do next. Then, out of the blue, they received a phone call. It was from the police, and they told the parents that they had found Timmy. They were overjoyed and rushed to the police station. When they saw their son, he was bruised and battered, but alive. They embraced him, tears of joy streaming down their faces. They had found their son, and nothing else mattered. As they drove home with Timmy, his parents couldn't help but wonder what had happened to him during the week he had been missing. They knew that he had been through something traumatic, and they were determined to help him through it. But as the night wore on, Timmy became increasingly agitated. He started yelling and screaming, saying things that made no sense. His parents were worried and didn't know what to do. Then suddenly, Timmy stopped. He looked at his parents with a wild look in his eyes and said, "I haven't told you the truth." His parents were shocked. What truth was their son talking about? They had been through so much to bring him back, and they were determined to get to the bottom of this. They asked Timmy what he was talking about, but he just shook his head and went silent. They were confused and scared, not knowing what to do next. But they knew that they couldn't give up. They had come too far to give up now. And so they continued to try to talk to Timmy, determined to get to the bottom of what was really going on. As the hours passed, Timmy began to calm down, and he eventually told his parents the truth. He confessed that he had been living in a shelter and had been taking care of himself during the week he had been missing. He had been afraid to go back home because he didn't want to hurt his parents again. His parents were relieved to hear that their son was safe, but they were also heartbroken to learn that he had been going through so much. They had no idea that he had been living in a shelter and taking care of himself. They had thought that he had been kidnapped or worse. They embraced their son, promising him that they would never give up on him. They were grateful to have him back, and they were determined to help him through whatever struggles he may face. As the sun rose the next morning, Timmy's parents knew that their son had come home for good. They had been through so much to bring him back, and they weren't going to let him go again. They had learned that no matter how difficult it was, they needed to be patient and understanding with their son. He had been through a lot and needed their love and support more than ever. As they sat down to breakfast, Timmy's father reached out and took his son's hand. "We're so glad you're home," he said. "We will never give up on you." Timmy looked up, his eyes filled with gratitude. "Thanks, Dad," he whispered. In that moment, Timmy's parents knew that their son was home where he belonged. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the Den Emotional Truths YouTube channel, and share this story with your friends. Thanks for watching.